Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. In this video, we'll be taking a look at upcoming weather patterns that will be taking shape in the medium to long term and model guidance that are predicting where these patterns will set up and how they will impact your weather locally. So, if you liked the content that's related to weather, please subscribe to my channel. I've been holding steady at just under 20 subscribers for a very long time, so I'm trying to increase the channel views that I'm getting. So tell your friends, share this video with your friends, more people that are interested in weather just like I am. So let's get on with the video. So here we're looking at the GFS model, and this is the current pattern with a trough in the east and a ridge in the west. And we'll be taking a look at what's causing this toward the end of the video. We'll be taking a look at the PNA and the AO toward the end. And that's the driver of all these patterns we'll be discussing in this video. So, just so you know, it looks like this trough should last in the northeast, probably for another 4 days, 5 days. And then looks by Monday, it should start to clear out. And look what's building back west. Some warmer temperatures. And it looks like, as of now, in about a week's time, there will be a big warm-up for the central and eastern United States. With a huge storm forming over the Midwest, it could cause a pretty big severe outbreak in the central and southern plains. So that's something to watch out for if you live there. Severe season started out slow. I think there's only been 24 tornadoes so far, but just because it started out slow, it could ramp up pretty quickly in the next few weeks. So it looks like we'll have a ridge actually developing in the east and a trough in the west, and this could be a pretty big pattern change, or a pattern flip, I should say, because as the pattern, if you go back to the beginning of run, you have a trough in the east provoking below average temperatures in the east, and you have a ridge in the west provoking above average temperatures in the west. But you go out toward March 11th. You have the complete opposite, a ridge in the east and a trough in the west, which means above normal temperatures in the east and below normal temperatures in the west. So it looks like we're going to have a pretty big pattern flip coming up soon. And if you're a spring lover in the east, you should be pretty excited, because it looks like warmer temperatures, big warm-ups coming up, and the medium to long term looks pretty warm for the east. And then if you go further, you'll see there'll be occasional cool blasts, but look, another warm-up comes up. Another storm rides into the Midwest. You get a huge cold front developing, a lot of humid and warm air going northward, and you could see warmer air. Let's take a look at how warm this air will be compared to average, and you could see for the next few days it will be pretty much below average along most of the East Coast, except near Florida. Florida is always warm. So, look what's building back west. You get warmer, above average temperatures, and look what this does. It eventually drifts eastward and into the eastern United States, and it lasts for a long time. Some of these in the Midwest, look at this. This is in Wisconsin. These values here are over 20 degrees above average. So this came true. Places in Wisconsin, parts of upper Michigan, could be 20 degrees above average. And the averages might not be that high. You might have averages like, let's say, 30 degrees as the high temperature there, so you might end up with 50. But for that particular place, 50 degrees is unusually warm. So although it might not be that warm, it will be pretty warm compared to average coming up with this blast. And then you continue going on. The very warm air makes it to the East Coast. In some parts of the East Coast, the averages already are 50 degrees. So that means you might be seeing 70s in some places, such as Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, maybe even lower 60s, mid-60s in New York City. Because these values here are 15 degrees above average. So if the average in New York City, which it is, the average would probably is 50 degrees in New York City. If you get 15 degrees above average, you're going to have temperatures in the 65 degree range, which is why sometimes you might see like Michigan ending up with 20 degrees above average. That's only 50 degrees. But some places like New York City, only 50 degrees above average is 65, which is why you should look at the averages before you make your decision on how warm it's going to be. the correlation compared to average does not mean that the temperature is going to be warm. In some cases, if the averages are 10 degrees and it's 20 degrees above average, it's way warmer than it should be, but it's 30 degrees considered very cold still. So yeah, I'm not going to go in depth into that. So then we continue. You can see occasional cold spells, brief, but then look, right after the gun, another warm-up comes. It's going to be basically on and off warm spells, and the warm spells will be much more intense and lasting longer than the cold spells. You could see you get a cold spell quickly, then a warm spell comes right back. It's going to be that type of pattern. And then you can see at the back it shows a pretty big cold blast coming in. Well, 10 degrees below average now, so it wouldn't be that cold. But this is over 340 hours out, so I wouldn't really look that close into that yet. But that's how the pattern looks. Now, something impressive I've seen is the 12Z European run, and it's showing the same concept, a trough in the east, then a huge pattern switch. But the strength of this warm-up is pretty amazing in how far north the yellows get. So compare this to yesterday's run. This was pretty more suppressed down south. Now the warm air is going much further north, with yellows extending into, and yellows is about 564 to 570. So 570 line. Look where the 570 line is on the GFS model over here. The GFS model has the 570 line down near the Gulf Coast. Now the European model has the 570 line up near the Mid-Atlantic, which is insane. If this was come true, you could get 70s all the way up into Boston, upstate New York. This would be a pretty amazing warm-up if that were to happen. Now you continue the European, same concept. A bit of a cold blast, and look at this warm air behind it being ready to push in right after that's over. Now let's take a look at the CMC model, and same as the other models, shows this trough in the east that eventually erodes, the warm air takes place, and it stays warm for a bit with pretty much, there's some values here too, up to 20 degrees above average, so keeps the warm air. And that's it. And then you could see a brief cold spell and then more warm air coming behind it. Although the Canadian model only goes out to 240. Now let's take a look at what's driving these patterns. And one factor is the AO. So currently the AO is around the neutral phase, but this is really impressive to me. Negative AO means a weaker polar vortex, and when the polar vortex is weaker, it has a higher chance of producing cold blasts like we just had. Last February was insanely snowy and cold in the U.S. because of a sudden stratospheric warming event that plunged the AO well into the negative phase. Look at this. This is where it happened, early February, and that had huge downstream effects. The February this year was way below average temperature-wise and way above average snow-wise. But when the AO is positive, like it's forecast to be very high positive, you could have some pretty strong polar vortex, and when it's pretty strong, it keeps the cold air bottled up in Canada, and and it's already almost spring. So even if the polar vortex wasn't strong, the cold air is starting to retreat further north. So that plus the strong polar vortex, that's gonna mean warmer air should be able to influx further north in the coming weeks, and what that means is we could have a pattern where wherever the warm air does go, which is the PNA, that's the PNA determines where this warm air will go north. But wherever it does, there's a high chance of big warm-ups coming up in the coming weeks. That's what I'm trying to get to. Now let's take a look at the PNA, and man, does this look good for the East Coast if you like warm weather. You could see we're currently slightly negative in the PNA, and it looks like it will go up actually to neutral, but don't be fooled by that because it's forecast to go right back down to the negative by March 15th. So it's looking like it will stay negative for at least another 15 days, and even if it's slightly negative, that means the cold air will stay in the west, and if it stays in the west, the east is the place that'll get the warm-ups. The PNA was actually positive, all the cold air would actually come toward the East Coast. And in the middle of winter, if you're a snow lover, you want the PNA to be positive. But if you want spring to come early and you're on the East Coast, you want it to be negative. Because if the PNA is negative, it keeps all the cold air bottled to the west of the United States. So it's looking like we'll have a pretty big warm-up coming up in the coming weeks in the medium to long range. And if as we get closer to the warm-up, I'll post more videos on it in the coming days. So if you like this video, please leave a like. Leave any suggestions you want for me to make in the comment section down below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, y'all.